Hi, welcome to the Stop Show. This is Brian Blain. I just came down from Toronto to spend a few days in my home turf, the townships. I was born in Sherbrooke. I spent a lot of time in Waterloo, also Knowlton and Sutton, and wrote a lot of songs about my life in the townships, and I want to share some of them with you here, and it's been a delight. I have some great memories of the townships. In 1990, I moved to Toronto. I had lived in Ontario back in the 60s, the late 60s, but now I arrived in Toronto early 1990, thinking I would only be there a couple of years, but the music scene there was just so incredible, not just blues, which is my music of choice. When I was in Montreal, a famous producer by the name of Andre Perry heard me do a song called Don't Forget Your Mother. It was probably the third or fourth song I had ever written. This is about 1971, 72. I toured around with April Wine, opening for them, ended up opening concerts for Seals and Crofts and Lou Reed in Montreal, had a great time there. But in the end, just went back to playing bass and made my way back to the townships, where I played bass with Oliver Klaus for a couple of years. How often does this happen nowadays, where the band played all summer, every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night in one place? It was a dream come true, you know, all week long. We might get together and learn a couple of songs during the week and then show up on Thursday, and it was gangbusters. And that place has become iconic in the townships, and of course, that is the Terrace Inn.
On old Lac Rome, at a lakeside bar that the kids called home. In the 1970s we rocked the house in a hot little band called Oliver Klaus. We had nothing to lose, we had the world to win. Summer at the Terrace Inn, having a real good time. Well, kids walked for miles from their homes and farms, their parents and teachers all up in arms. Their stories written on a washroom wall, their innocence lost in an old dance hall. Loved those kids and they loved our band, and I just wanted to sound like Magic Sam, something like this. Let's hear Jean play a little bit for me. little bit there, Pierre. Back to those golden days, all the fun we had, all the hell we raised, drinking too much beer, getting into a fight, making love on the lake in the soft moonlight, playing our music with friends and kin. Summer at the terrace inn, having a real good time, playing that old rock and roll. We had the Doobie Brothers, we had Edgar Winter, we might have even had a little bit of Johnny Winter, a little bit of Beatles and Stones, but I'll tell you, people came from as far away as Montreal because we were the band that could play Stairway just like the record, having a real good time, playing that old rock and roll. Thank you.
When I was in Cape Cod, I ended up writing a few songs about that area and some about Wales. And now here's one that I wrote kind of also tongue-in-cheek because a lot of people in Cape Cod do not encourage tourism. It's a narrow little road to get out to the end of the Cape to Provincetown, which is a very cool little place if you ever get to go there. I think the residents there don't really want to encourage tourism. The tourism office there in Cape Cod, Provincetown, probably wouldn't approve of this one, but here's a tune that I wrote, a bit of an anti-tourism song for coming to visit Cape Cod.
Shark attack in Truro. They say don't swim around the seals. Ticks and mosquitoes, deadly as the eels. Killer tornadoes and a vicious hurricane. One good tsunami would wash Cape Cod away. But we got the sunshine, we got the sea, we got the sand. Enjoy it while you can. Sweet blueberries, but poison ivy all around. When you go swimming, the undertow will suck you down. Nature's disappearing. You can't stop that rising tide. A few more meters, and you can kiss Cape Cod goodbye. But we got the sunshine, we got the sea, we got the sand. Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can. Enjoy it while you can.
L'équipe de l'émission Stop tient à remercier les commanditaires suivants pour leur appui financier.
Les services financiers ARB ont l'expertise nécessaire pour tous vos besoins de tenue de livre, rapport d'impôt, TPS-TVQ, état financier et services de paye. Ralph Buschenbaum et Benoît Carrier sont là pour vous. 450-292-5835.
I just drove in a couple of days ago for a couple of gigs, and I certainly look forward to more opportunities here. So I made a few CDs over the years, and I had made one a couple of years back, which was just a solo CD, myself and a fabulous bass player called George Kohler. And now, a year later, we went in the studio and added a lot of other instrumentation. Quentin Meek, who happens to be a recording engineer that I knew from Montreal way back when, who's now settled down around Lac Brome. He was the one that was able to reinvent my solo CD into more of a production. It's called New Folk Blues 2.0 now. And this song, Forgotten, is the lead track on that record. It's about New Orleans, the musicians of New Orleans, how they were really never very much compensated for the contributions they made to the music we love to this day. And this tune, Forgotten, is talking about how all these great musicians from New Orleans, writers and musicians, had created so many styles of music. So even though I never got to New Orleans, I got as far as Jackson, Mississippi. One day I'm going to make it to New Orleans and enjoy that food and music. But meanwhile, I wrote a song, and it was written for a special event that was going to take place in Toronto about raising funds for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. And that event never happened, but the song got written, and here it is.
I want to take you down to Louisiana. Never saw Louisiana. Never threatened by a flood. But after Hurricane Katrina and Crescent City turned to mud, and I thought of the musicians who made all the sounds we love, hardly ever compensated, lucky just to get a crumb. Forgotten, they invented jazz, forgotten, gave us all the blues, forgotten, and the Dixieland, forgotten, rockabilly too, forgotten. They gave us ragtime, forgotten, and the second line, forgotten, Cajun and Zydeco, forgotten, even rock and roll. They invented jazz, forgotten, gave us all the blues, forgotten, and the Dixieland, forgotten, rockabilly too, forgotten. They gave us ragtime, forgotten, and the second line, forgotten, Cajun and Zydeco, forgotten, even rock and roll, forgotten. Forgotten, forgotten, forgotten.
Well, shortly after I moved away from the townships, I wrote this tune. It's a story about my time in Sutton. The song is called Sob Story, like the car, S-A-A-B, and it's a song about a girl and a car. And what to say about it? It actually got a lot of play on the jazz station in Toronto, which was not typical for a blues guy. But we got a fabulous guy, Jim Galloway. He's quite a legend in Toronto. He played some sax on it. I had some great musicians. Richard Bell, who was a keyboard player that many people remember fondly. He passed away. And he was part of Janis Joplin's band and The Band and a lot of famous groups in the States. So we had some great musicians playing on Sob Story. I hope you enjoy this one. All right, Sob Story, like the car.
It's a sob story. What a sob story. Just a sob story about a girl and a car. Driven to distraction, I don't know where to turn. Going round in circles, when will I ever learn? Don't ask me why I make the same mistake again and again and again. It's a sob story. What a sob story. Just a sob story about a girl and a car. I was out there alone in the land of the forgiven when I ran into a fella from the town I used to live in. He's full of stories, what was going on last year, but there's only one I want to hear. So I got up the courage and I asked him kind of casual, what about that girl with the Saab turbo convertible? He said, oh, she's still living up there alone
Alone, you say? How could that be? What a sob story. Just a sob story. That's a sob story about a girl and a car. Well, sometimes I wonder how things might have gone if I'd asked her for a lift, if she'd taken me along. Well, now I'll never know if I was right or I was wrong. All I know is it's a sob story. What a sob story. Just a sob story about a girl and a car. Sob story about a girl and a car. Sob story about a girl and a car. Sob story. Oh, yes it is.
I'd like to leave you with a song I wrote in the townships with a great musician, artist in Waterloo. His name is Daniel Racine. He wrote the words for a song called Ramène-moi demain. And he wrote it as a poem and gave it to me. This is back in the 70s, 75, 76. And I put it to music, and I guess I played it for him at the time, but the song kind of one of those things where it sat in the closet for 20 years. But I pulled it out lately and started performing it and getting a great reaction, chanter en français, singing it in French, and loving it. And so now I get to practice my French a little bit over there in Ontario. You know, it's quite a universal feeling of leaving behind the rush of the big city. This song talks about just putting all that aside for a little while, coming back to the land. It's been a great time sharing this with you, and hope to see you again. So, thanks for tuning in.
Ramène-moi demain dans mon petit village où le lac impatient réfléchit le rivage. Ses prés, ses vallons, ses érables puissants, où l'île de Quenouille et le vent de juillet animent nos ébats et forge tous nos jeux. Ramène-moi demain dans mon pays natal où fleurit le lilas, la rose et la pivoine, où le carillon chante par toutes les saisons, le langage secret de nos rêves profonds et les collines vertes, les monts de nos cantons. d'en haut, se lever le soleil et se faire la moisson quand la terre jaunit. Retrouver le parfum du matin dans la brume et remonter en paix le chemin insonore du soir qui sans finir nous ramène l'aurore. Laissons là ce que le progrès nous offre pour quelques jours. Oublions que tout va vite. Ramène-moi une autre fois sur la terre pour me reposer. Laissons là ce que le progrès nous offre pour quelques jours. Oublions que tout va vite. Laissons là